Kronberg Castle, Hesse, Germany, November 1945. A 34-year-old American captain walks into the castle basement. She carries a flashlight, a blueprint, a sledgehammer. Her name is Kathleen Nash. She runs the officers' dining room. She measures the wall. She swings the sledgehammer. Behind the brick, a zinc-lined wooden box. Inside it, 405 diamonds on a single platinum bracelet, a 116-carat sapphire. A platinum watch set with 606 diamonds. Gold cutlery engraved with the crest of the Kaisers. The wedding Bibles of 3 generations of German princes. The box had been buried 1 year earlier, to the day. Hidden from Allied bombers. Hidden from the SS. Hidden from Adolf Hitler himself, who had sent the head of the Hesse family to a concentration camp 2 years before. The box survived all of them. It did not survive a mess officer from Wisconsin. No tunnel, no getaway car, no safe to crack. She used the United States Army Postal Service, diplomatic pouches, fake return addresses, a WWII signature. She mailed the crown jewels of Imperial Germany, one piece at a time, to a single house in California. By the time Washington noticed, 30 boxes were already gone. The woman the U.S. Army trusted to serve them dinner had just pulled off the largest jewel theft in the history of the American military, using nothing but a post office and a signature. The mess officer, Kathleen Durant Nash, was not a combat soldier. She was not an investigator, not an intelligence officer, not even a supply officer in the traditional sense. She managed the mess. Born 1902 in Wisconsin, 43 years old when the war ended, twice divorced. Her job in the Women's Army Corps was specific. Run the officers' dining room, order the food, schedule the cooks, sign the receipts, a clerk in uniform. In June 1945, she received a new assignment. The U.S. Army had requisitioned a castle in the Taunus Hills, 30 kilometers north of Frankfurt. It was not just any castle. It was Schloss Friedrichshof, commonly called Kronberg Castle, the private residence of one of the oldest royal families in Europe, the House of Hesse. The Hesse family was a European dynasty that went back 500 years. They were cousins to Queen Victoria. They intermarried with the Romanovs, the Hohenzollerns, the Danish royal family. Their jewelry collection was not decoration. It was a 5th-century archive of European royal power, diamond by diamond. The U.S. Army took the castle as an officers' recreation club and a WWII hostel. They gave the keys to Captain Kathleen Nash. June 15, 1945. For the next 5 months, Nash lived in a castle that Queen Victoria's granddaughter had decorated herself. She slept in rooms where Kaiser Wilhelm had entertained royalty. She walked hallways lined with portraits of her own generation's enemies. Nobody was watching her. The war was over. Germany had collapsed. The Inspector General's office in Frankfurt was drowning in war crimes paperwork. Nobody was asking a mess officer any questions. Then, one morning in November 1945, her assistant came to her with a sledgehammer. He had found something in the basement, 2 copper wires running directly into a solid wall. The cache that survived Hitler. To understand what Nash walked into, you have to understand how the box got there. The Hesse family had a problem long before the Americans arrived. The head of the family was Prince Philip of Hesse Castle. He had been an early supporter of the Nazi regime, joined the party in 1930, became governor of Hesse-Nassau, and then, in September 1943, Hitler personally ordered his arrest. Philip was sent to Flossenburg concentration camp, then Dachau. His wife, Princess Mafalda of Savoy, was sent to Buchenwald. She was killed there in 1944 by an American bomb during a raid on a munitions factory next to the camp. With the head of the family imprisoned by the Nazis and the wife dead, the remaining Hesse relatives in Kronberg faced 3 overlapping threats: Allied bombers, who had flattened Kassel, Frankfurt, and Hamburg; the Wehrmacht, who requisitioned everything of value for the war effort, the SS, who confiscated the property of any family that fell out of favor with Berlin. The family decided to hide everything. October 31st, 1944. Under the supervision of Heinrich Lang, the estate manager, a crew of servants built a false wall in the castle basement. Behind the wall, they placed a wooden box lined with zinc, soldered shut to make it waterproof. Inside the box, a platinum bracelet with 405 diamonds, a platinum watch with 606 diamonds, a 116-carat sapphire from the wedding trousseau of the Empress Frederick, 282 carats of loose diamonds, gold cutlery with the imperial eagle of Wilhelm II, family Bibles dating back to the 16th century, gold snuff boxes given by Queen Victoria as wedding gifts. They poured fresh concrete over the floor, built the false wall flush with the existing brickwork, left 2 small copper wires running to the concealment, a marker only the family would recognize. Then, they waited for the war to end. The box survived the bombing of Frankfurt. It survived the withdrawal of the Wehrmacht. It survived the SS. It survived Hitler. It had been in the ground for 381 days when Captain Nash's assistant noticed the wires. Method discovery. The officer who read the regulations. Nash did not dig up the box the same day. She did something more important. She called a lawyer, Colonel Jack Durant, 46 years old, U.S. Army Air Force's executive officer, stationed nearby, former civilian attorney. Before the war, he had practiced commercial law in Virginia. He knew exactly what to look up. Nash had a question for him. Under what specific condition does property in occupied Germany become legally ownerless? Durant found the answer in U.S. Army directives issued after VE Day. Property in the American occupation zone fell into 3 categories: abandoned property, owner unknown or deceased, with no legal claimant; enemy property, owned by active members of the Nazi regime, subject to confiscation; protected property, owned by identifiable civilians with legal claim, untouchable. The Hesse family jewels were protected property. The Hesse family had identifiable living heirs, legal claims, existing inventories filed with Swiss banks. Anyone taking that property was committing larceny under military law. Nash and Durant decided something else. If nobody knew the box had been found, the box had never been found. And if the box had never been found, the jewels were never stolen. They were simply still buried. An audit cannot uncover a crime it does not know occurred. They brought in a 3rd officer, Major David Watson, quartermaster, Bronze Star recipient, knew the military postal system inside out. They brought in a 4th, technician 5th grade Roy Carlton, whose job was to keep the workmen silent. The method was not violence, it was paperwork. Over the following weeks, the 3 officers tested the boundaries. First, 1 piece, a single gold snuff box. Nash mailed it to her sister's house in Hudson, Wisconsin, labeled as personal effects. It arrived. Nobody asked questions. Second test, a bracelet, removed from its setting, the stones mailed separately, the platinum melted into a shapeless lump, also arrived. Third test, 10 pieces across 4 envelopes, different return addresses, different U.S. destinations, some through the Army Postal Service, APO, some through the diplomatic pouch, which was not searchable by U.S. Customs under international law. Everything arrived. By the end of November 1945, Nash understood something the U.S. Treasury had not yet admitted publicly. The military postal system had no way to inspect a parcel sent by an American officer from occupied Germany to an American address. It relied on the word of the officer. The system trusted rank over content. Rank was what Nash, Durant, and Watson had. They opened the box. What Nash did next was not a heist. It was an inventory. She laid out every piece of jewelry on a bed in her private quarters at Kronberg. Durant photographed each item. They cataloged them by metal weight and stone count. Then, they destroyed the context. stones removed from their settings, metals melted into anonymous lumps, family Bibles stripped of their jeweled clasps, crest filed off silver. Without the original settings, the pieces became untraceable. A 116-carat sapphire is a historical object. A loose sapphire of 116 carats is a commodity. Once the pieces were anonymous, they started shipping. The numbers were methodical: 1 box per week through December 1945, 3 boxes per week through January 1946, 7 boxes per week through February. Destinations varied: Nash's sister's house in Hudson, Wisconsin, Durant's parents in California, a storage unit Watson rented under a fake name in Chicago. Watson took personal leave and flew to Bern, Basel, and Zurich, selling smaller stones for Swiss francs at jewelry markets that asked no questions. Durant flew to Northern Ireland on a cover assignment and sold individual diamonds at a Belfast auction house. By early 1946, they had shipped approximately 30 boxes out of Germany. 30 boxes, 3,000 individual pieces of jewelry, none of them inspected. Then the first problem. February 1946. Nash received official orders to rotate back to the United States. The war was over. The WAC was being demobilized. This was an opportunity and a threat. Opportunity: she could leave Germany with what remained on her person, return home, regroup. Threat: once she left Kronberg, the next occupant of the castle might notice what had been done to the basement wall. Durant arrived at Kronberg on a 30-day leave. He and Nash married on May 28, 1946. It was not a love match. A wife cannot be compelled to testify against her husband under U.S. military law. Nor, as their lawyers had confirmed, could a husband be compelled to testify against his wife. The marriage made the case against them almost impossible to prosecute, as long as one of them kept silent. They left Germany within a week. They did not know that 2 weeks later, in a parallel hallway 600 kilometers away, a young woman was trying on her mother-in-law's wedding gown, and the diamonds were missing. Princess Sophia of Hesse was 21 years old. In April 1946, she was preparing to remarry. Her first husband had died flying for the Luftwaffe in 1943. Her mother, Princess Margaret of Hesse, went into the family archives to retrieve her daughter's wedding jewelry. The basement box was empty. What happened next was the only thing Nash and Durant had not planned for. Princess Margaret did not go to the German police. There were no German police. Germany had no sovereign government in April 1946. She went to the U.S. Occupation Authority in Frankfurt. She was politely told that her claim would be noted. She came back. She was told her claim was still being reviewed. She came back a third time. Princess Sophia took over. Sophia was not just a Hesse princess. Through her mother's side, she was a direct relative of the British royal family, a first cousin of the future Prince Philip, husband of the future Queen Elizabeth II. Sophia called London. London called Washington. The U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Division, the CID, opened a priority file. A Chicago jeweler had just refused to buy 282 carats of undocumented loose diamonds from a buyer calling himself Durant. He had called the Chicago police. The Chicago police called the FBI. On June 2, 1946, Nash and Durant were arrested at the LaSalle Hotel in Chicago. Watson was already in custody in Frankfurt. He had stayed too long. 3 Frankfurt trials ended with Nash sentenced to 5 years hard labor, Watson to 3, and Durant, deemed the ringleader, to 15. The U.S. Army spent 5 years and over $1 million recovering what it could, but returned less than half. Most of the platinum and gold had been melted down. The stones sold through untraceable channels. On August 1, 1951, the recovered items were formally handed back to the Hesse family at Kronberg Castle, where Prince Philip, who had survived Flossenburg and Dachau and been liberated by American soldiers, had returned home only to find those same liberators had stolen everything his family spent 5 centuries collecting. The Hesse Crown Jewels outlasted 3 invasions, the Third Reich, the Holocaust, and Allied bombing, and did not survive 5 months in an American officers' club. Somewhere in Virginia, Maryland, or California, buried in a backyard or locked in a safety deposit box nobody has opened since 1952, there are diamonds that once belonged to Queen Victoria.